Well, I'm not in my usual spot. Instead of the forest, we're at the beach today. I've been filming with my drone with something, and I'm actually on the same beach I usually come to with my kids. But today it's Friday morning, so that means this beach is the religious beach, and today is a men's day, so I can be here. Just so you understand, I just want to tell you a little bit about freedom, but I'm going to explain it by talking about a restriction of freedom. Okay, so right now the piece of beach that I'm on, and I'm going to just turn the camera. If you can see over my shoulder a green little fence, green plastic fencing, and then you can't see it because the lifeguard station is behind me, but the other side of the lifeguard station, another 100 meters, is another green fence. And between those 2 points, can everyone hear me? Send me a comment or press the heart if you can hear me. Between those 2 green fences, on alternate days, it's a men's day or a women's day, okay? And there aren't very many beaches like this in Israel. This one's here, it's just south of the Herzliya Marina. It's at the northern edge of Tel Aviv. There's another one sort of in the middle of Tel Aviv. But that's it. Okay, most of the beaches in Israel are mixed, very bikini, very good looking women, the usual stuff. But this one beach is not. And what that is it's a concession by the country to a personal choice that some people make dictated by their religion, which is personal to them, that says that they don't want to be exposed to the opposite sex unnecessarily. Okay, there's necessary and there's unnecessary. So they want to go to the beach as men, and women want to go to the beach as women. Meanwhile, this is not stupid, in that the lifeguard station up there are all my friends, they're all men. So when it's Women's Day here, the women are all watched by men from the lifeguard station. So because saving lives is a priority in Judaism, so nobody puts women's modesty above having a lifeguard, and the lifeguards generally are men. Now we can get into a discussion on gender selection in careers later. Ask Jordan Peterson. But the reality is, so this piece of beach is slightly restricted. My personal freedom, or my wife's personal freedom, is restricted on some days to come here. But that's what we give up living in a society where we have respect for other people. So what's the problem? Well, there isn't a problem. And as far as I know, Jews elsewhere don't really want to inflict this kind of restriction on non-Jews. We just don't do it. That's why we have our own country, and in our own country we can have our own rules. They're not the world's most oppressive rules. I mean, tomorrow I will come back to this beach with my kids, and it's a mixed, the lifeguards are still here, but because it's a Shabbat, the religious people won't want to be here, and so nobody cares. So again, this is the boundaries of society and restrictions on freedom. My personal choice is always to have as much personal freedom as possible, but there are times when one restricts freedom. Now, I'm going to bring this on to Tommy. So, Tommy's in prison. His freedom is ultimately restricted. He is totally and utterly restricted. Could someone say that this "you are a killer" guy just vote his comments out of here? I can't be asked. I would mean putting down my cafe shachor. I am so happy to be on a beach in Israel. I tell you, you cannot begin to know how growing up in London, West London, with the drizzle and the rain, and now I live here, and this is 10 minutes from my house. It's a total change in life. His freedom is restricted. And why is it restricted? Well, ostensibly, the government's claims and the court's claim, it's because he was not free to do what he was doing. What was he doing? He was standing outside a court telling people what was going on inside that court. Courts are supposed to be public, but this particular court, there were reasons to restrict the reporting, and bang, they get Tommy. Tommy's locked up for 13 months, which we all know is the most insane sentence any journalist has ever had for breaking a court rule like that. And I tell you, the reason you know it's bullshit, they're claiming that his actions could have resulted in a mistrial. You can go on YouTube right now and on Facebook. You can find the 1 hour, 15-minute live stream in its entirety on YouTube. You can even do this if you're in the UK. So the judge in that case hasn't even bothered to issue a court order to YouTube to say, take down this video. So if they really believe that Tommy's video was prejudicial to the case, and could have been prejudicial to the case and could continue to be prejudicial because the case continues with a third part sometime later this year, if they thought it was prejudicial, they would have to take the video down. And YouTube would obviously comply and it would knock that video out. I know how fast YouTube spots it. If you upload a Beyonce song, bang, it's down in a second. So they could do that with this. They can spot it. No. The court doesn't give a shit about what Tommy said on his video outside the court. That's absolutely obvious. So, you know, we live in this multifaceted world, but everything that I see going on in Europe is that a whole set of unbelievably quisling elites who've sold out. They've sold out to, I think, Islam. They're terrified of Islam. They're terrified of the Muslim so-called minorities in their country, but they're terrified to act against them. And what happens when you give in all the time is they take more and more and more, and they just take and take and take. And that's the position you're in the UK. So why is Tommy locked up? He's locked up because Muslims wanted him locked up, because they threaten violence upon the state if he is not locked up. They threaten to riot. But I tell you what, the threat of a few tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of Muslims rioting, what the government doesn't see is the threat of non-Muslims rioting. I don't know if that threat is real. I don't know if the sort of crowds that turned up peacefully to listen to speeches, will they turn violent one day? One just doesn't know, but the government clearly doesn't think so, because the government clearly is appeasing one side and crushing the other. Don't be crushed by government. Stand up, resist. That's why the Americans keep their guns. You know, living in Britain, I never understood the NRA. I never understood the American thing with guns. And then after 9/11, about 2003 or so, 2002, I started going to events in America. Political events. I started actually listening properly to the point of view of people like the NRA. In fact, I wound up having lunch with the woman who was running the NRA. And she said something to me that I since then, it just changed my whole outlook on everything. She said to me personally, but it's on their website, the NRA is a human rights organization. The NRA is fighting for the human right to self-defense, which is about the most fundamental one you can have. And then I got it. I mean, it's not about the hunting, it's not about fishing, it's not about having fun in the park. Fundamentally, it's, do American citizens have the right to defend themselves in the most effective manner possible? And the most effective way to defend yourself is to have a gun. If a guy comes at you with a knife, a gun is better. If a guy comes at you with a gun, you want a gun. That is what the NRA stands for in America. And that's what you've lost in Europe. You've given up all your freedoms to self-defense. You've given up the freedom to oppose your government, because you've allowed your government to become so all-powerful that it feeds you, it gives you your health care. Everything stems from the government, and now you're left wondering, how the hell do you resist a tyrannical government? Because it appears that what you've got yourself into is a tyrannical government that is just determined to make you accept that you are going to be living with an increasing number of Muslims amongst you who don't want to abide by your norms. They want to make you abide by their norms. And that's the political aspect. That is when Islam turns political. It's also when Judaism turns political. But from the point of view of this, we have the one Jewish state. So we're allowed to have a Jewish beach with Jewish rules where men and women can be separate if they want on a few days a week. That's it. That's what we've got Israel for. We don't make you care. You don't have to know about this stuff. You don't have to change your beaches in the south of France for Jews. But you do once the Muslims show up and say every woman should be covering themselves up. That's the difference. When we have a political Judaism, it manifests itself only in one place, which is our country of Israel. Unfortunately, Islam seems to be political at its core, and it seems to be manifesting the political aspects of Islam everywhere else it goes in the world. As soon as they get strong, they become political, and that's where you have the problem. Anyway, enough of me ranting. I wonder if you heard it. I'm going to carry on drinking. This is called Café Shachor. It's basically just powder black coffee dumped in the bottom of a cup, and you kind of filter it by not taking very large swigs. It's quite an act of you have to learn to like this stuff, but I have, and I do, and I live here. So I've been Brian of London. This is me on the beach, wishing well to Tommy. Send him some more emails. I've sent him a couple already. I'm going to send another one later today. He'll probably be pleased about the Argentina thing last night. That was quite fun. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to tell him about the cricket, because the last two one-day internationals by England have been absolutely astonishing. I mean, smashing the world record for a one-day score, and then yesterday just tearing apart the Australians again. Fantastic stuff. All right, that's all. See you next time. Bye.